I hate it when people use metaphors that are physically impossible. It makes my blood boil. Very stupid. I hate it when online I think I met a 10, but I really met a 4. All right. Yes. Dunking. That was hilarious. You're laughing, aren't you? You're laughing your face off. Oh, yeah. If you're not laughing, it's because you're probably a 4. That's my George Bush laugh. You know, the way politics works, we're set up to believe that we have the blue and the red guys, like different teams, like the Raiders and the Broncos. But what if the Raiders and the Broncos were really on the same team and they attended the same practice and they had the same coaches and the same friends and the same girlfriends and went to the same clubs, and only when they had a rigged Super Bowl ever actually competed against one another, meanwhile stoking their varying rivalries to keep their fan base engaged? What if that's the case? Well, number 1, it is the case. Number 2, that's politics. Number 3, George Bush and Obama, Barry Sotelo, knew one another well before the 2008 election. Number 4, McCain wasn't a maverick, he was a political creature. And the Romneys, the only thing worthwhile about them is some of them are in Mexico, and Arrested Development made a funny season 4 joke out of that, which is a rarity because season 4, everybody knows, sucked. It wasn't bad. It was better than season 5. I did not like that Buster was actually a serial killer. That wasn't funny. That wasn't funny because, oh, okay, so he is a serial killer. It wasn't funny. That was bad writing. Most of Arrested Development is amazing. I love that show. Buster should not have been a serial killer. He was an innocent idiot who would not have killed that woman even though he became a monster. He would have tried to kill her and failed. That would have been funny. It would have been funny if he really thought he did it and she was alive. If Lucille too was. But Liza Minnelli, is she still around? Isn't she dead? I don't know. They're all too old, They had to do something with it. So they were in a catch-22. I feel for them, but I still feel that season 5 sucked. And season 4 was all right. I love when Lucille was in jail and they had Bobby Lee in drag trying to say loophole. That was funny. I don't like all the nasty, weird gay sex stuff Bobby Lee does. I don't find that funny at all. I find that disgusting and disturbing. So, I try and have a balanced view of reality. And I say all that to say this. The political realities of our country are as much a show as Arrested Development, and the people behind them are like those in Arrested Development, playing shenanigan games to try and extricate themselves from the stupid situations they've put themselves in of their own chicanery. So, anyway, the world's inside out. It's topsy-turvy. It's strange, it's unpredictable, and it's totally expected because we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with spiritual wickedness in high places. So when you discover that people like George Bush are, in point of fact, swamp things who went to secret societies like the Skull and Bones in order to become connected, well, you shouldn't be too surprised. I was. It took me a while. It took me a while to understand it. But then what I understood is that it's not an issue of who's who in the zoo politically. Haha, look, I switched it to the triangle. Guys, I'm just talking and doing stuff here. I'm not real. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just letting my fingers go. It's not an issue of who's who politically. It's an issue of who's who spiritually. And spiritually, objective truth tends to lead to one conclusion. There is a right and there is a wrong, and what is right and wrong has an objective quality to it. There is no subjectivity anywhere. That itself is a fiction designed to keep you engaged in a false dichotomy. A thesis, antithesis, synthesis, and in the meantime, between these false dichotomies, what do you have? You have manipulation. So George Bush was working on behalf of his handlers to bring about the shenanigans they had always intended from the beginning. And what were those shenanigans? Well, what we're seeing right now with the Koof and with the Maxine and with the war in Ukraine, Kiev, not Kiev, you pedophile Joe. What we're seeing now is part of a larger agenda whose ultimate purpose is total hegemony, total hegemonic domination of the world by one consolidated body of leadership. That's the end game, consolidating leadership among one group so that they have world power. We're literally talking about James Bond level Spectre here. And I've said this before in these videos, James Bond wasn't the good guy. James Bond was an agent of Spectre, and Ian Fleming was romanticizing his own perversity, you see. Ian Fleming was running around banging all these girls, getting drunk all the time, lying, cheating, stealing, killing, and underwritten by the government the whole time. So when he wrote those books, what he was really doing was he was trying to, give it a good PR spin. That's all James Bond was. It's a PR spin on government manipulation and corruption. That's all it was. And the same is similarly true of John le Carre, but it was a different kind of spin he was putting on it. He was trying to have a little sympathy for the devil, as it were, in his books like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, where the gay relationship was a core to what was going on. And this is worth considering as well, Kim Philby was a real dude, and he really was kind of into that nasty shenaniganery. So, the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy stuff, it's pretty accurate stuff. What ends up happening is disaffected people who are usually perverse and easy to blackmail get in a position where they're willing to sell out their own country. And so they pull shenanigans that they know they shouldn't be doing. So what happens? There's a steady amount of paranoia, and that steady paranoia leads to decisions, actions, activities, betrayals, deals, double agents, triple agents, yada, yada, yada. It's really not that exciting. It's high school politics writ large, where a bunch of people trying to be in with the popular crowd lie, cheat, and steal and pull shenanigans so they can get away with it, and then they get caught. But then it turns out that that's all that the popular crowd did to get there either. It was all just a big incestuous push. Now, when you stratify that down to the local level, the same thing happens. Even in the smallest communities, there's nepotism and there are backroom dealings that are the actual definers of what policies make it and what policies don't. And it has very little to do with the will of the people, and a lot to do with the will of those who are in power and who have chosen who they want to be their puppets. So even in your small town community in Wyoming or South Dakota or Iowa or Montana or North Dakota, wherever you happen to be, you've got these cheese weasels. I mean, just look at Booty Gag or Booty Judge or Booty Keg. That little fruitcake from Ohio who's leading transportation and looks about as competent as a stoned pussycat in a room full of tuna fish. He's just going to eat it all up, and when you come in and ask what happened, he'll be like, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, it's just a big game. It's like in, there's a movie, a wonderful movie. It's called Dark City. And the guy goes crazy as he realizes the world they live in is not the real world. And he says, it's all a big joke. And then he jumps in front of a train. Don't do that. That is what they want you to do. And that's what you must not do. You also need to be careful not to be like Bumfeld, the detective, who's just stupid, gets drawn in, and then ends up not really doing anything worthwhile. You want to be like the guy who knows how to tune. That little C-list actor who's in everything, but nobody knows his name. He does a great job in that film. Our reality is a lot more like that than many would like us to admit. But it's not little bald creeps that are calling the shots. It's spiritual wickedness in high places. And what is spiritual wickedness in high places? Well, it is demonic. But basically, those in high places, the Soroses of the world, they are puppets. They're just like the Pied Piper, just like a marionette. And what are they doing? They are facilitating the development of a continuously contracting, fetid flower, a flower of death. So you have chosen death. Christopher Lee, also a man, part of the shenanigans when he was in the war. But there were heroes in the war. There were heroes in World War II. Oh, yes, there were. And it's worth considering that there can be heroes in the intelligence community, but it's a rarity. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can't have faith in our institutions. You need to follow God, because our institutions have been designed for the liars, by the liars. And the end result is a conglomeration of shenanigans. So you see, it may appear that there is an interesting pink box that hides a prize under the Christmas tree. But what is it really? Bunch of random contrivances. Guys, I'm trying to come up with something here, and I'm not doing well. So what am I going to do here? I don't even know. This needs to go on my wall. I've got a wall full of all the origami that I've done in the last couple of months. And the thing is, as you go online, the origami options you have become increasingly complex to the point where I'd have to practice them out well before I did anything with them. And I just don't have the time to do that. So what I'm going to do here is make a spaceship puppet. Looks like an A-wing with a tumor. Welcome to Muppets Tonight.